Hello everybody and welcome to another episode of Shit Loretta Knows. So today I want to talk about why or how it is that healing is an inside job. And in my little preamble to this live, I said that especially online, you can have what we call done for you services. I can get a marketing house to do my marketing and run my ads. I can get a copywriter to write my copy. I can get someone to do my posting. I can get AI to write my posts. And basically I can delegate things to people to do for me. And those are called done for you services. And then I can, for a lower price, I can learn how to do those things myself, usually from someone that's teaching some sort of course. And that's like a done by you service, right? But the thing with health is that there's no done for you option. There is no done for you option. So there is no one that you can totally outsource that to. You can have therapists and you can have doctors and you can have healers and you can have shaman and you can have plant medicine and you can have supplements and you can have food. You can have all of that helping you get to your place of healing. But you cannot outsource the healing. You can't have a done for you service. So healing, my friends, is an inside job. It is only up to you to do it. Now, you can certainly have people to guide you, as I said. I'm not suggesting you just go it alone like some sort of pioneer trying to conquer a continent. But you need to accept that you are going to have to do the work. And here's the thing. No one is really sure exactly what the work is. So, when someone sells you the follow my 5-step process and you will never have to go on a diet again, or follow these 3 easy hacks and you will have glowing health forever. I always think to myself, what a lot of bullshit, right? Because you can't actually reduce healing, something as complex as healing a human, down to 3 easy hacks. And so some tools that work for some humans don't work for others, and some that work for others don't work for you, right? And so it's a case of actually working with someone who is sensitive enough to be able to fit the tool, to get the tool for the job, right? So that's actually also another really important aspect that I didn't actually make a note of, is that you have to have the right tools for the job. And those tools have to be the right tools for you. And there is no one that knows you better than you, except if you haven't made any effort to find out what's going on in your unconscious mind. Because if you believe that what is happening with you and to you and who you are is purely your thoughts and your feelings, then you are being led around by your mind. And your mind is a function of your ego. And your ego develops in the first 3 years of your life in order to keep you safe, in order to teach you how the world works so that you can navigate your way safely through the world without running the risk of essentially being rejected to the extent where you cannot survive. So, when you rely solely on your ego to get you through your life, then at some point you're going to run into problems, right? Which is what we all do. And so, that classic midlife crisis that then devolves into something that some people call the dark night of the soul. The reason why your midlife crisis is a cliche is because midlife crises happen so often. So one of the problems that we have is that we seem to have this delusion that by the time we get to midlife, if we're just good people and we work hard, we mostly will have our shit sorted, right? We'll have stable relationships, our children will be okay, we'll have enough money, and we'll have jobs that fulfill us. But the truth is that if you've been fooling yourself about what is actually going on in your life for years, it's usually in midlife that the wheels start falling off. And very often they fall off in the form of signs and symptoms and disease labels. So, it's time for us to stop this. We can heal it all by being positive. The Love and Light Brigade is going to cure us all. Someone's going to save us. The stars are going to align and the new age is going to arrive. The rise of the divine feminine is going to overthrow the patriarchy, and it's all going to be about collaboration and kumbaya. Guys, believing that anything outside of you is going to come and save you is bullshit. It's time for us to rip the bandaid off, right? The spiritual bypassing of having a spiritual practice that's going to save your life, or doing enough yoga, or having enough hours of meditation is going to heal you, sort out your trauma, and take away your pain. It's bullshit. It's bullshit. It's stuff that keeps us trapped. It's not sold, and I don't think that anybody is trying to con you into believing that their way is the right way when they don't believe it themselves. But the problem is that a lot of the people that are teaching this stuff have also got their blinkers on. Now, you might say, oh, well, Loretta, so who has ordained you, and how is it that you don't have your blinkers on? Well, listen, guys, I still have my blinkers on. There's no doubt about it. But I've been working for more than 30 years to actually rip the blinkers off. And I certainly don't profess to know everything. I don't have all the tools and techniques, and I don't have all the answers. But I can tell you, I've spent enough time discovering what doesn't work. I've spent enough time trying out the bullshit bypassing, and I've seen enough people die because they bought into that. And so I don't want you to be that person, and I don't want me to be that person. And even though I don't profess to have all the answers, I think I have enough experience to be able to say, you know what, I can spot the bullshit quite clearly now from a mile away. So healing is like a multidisciplinary movement, right? It's messy, guys. It's not all about love and light and flick flaps and lollipops and silver linings and unicorn farts and positive attitudes and glasses half full and self-care mornings, right? It's messy. It's like an archaeological dig. Have you seen how much stuff they have to unearth before they find that pot under the earth, or that dinosaur footprint, or that thing that is like the wow find, right? It's messy. It's dirty. It's usually got a lot of blood and sweat and tears and snot and all sorts of body fluids that we don't necessarily love involved. And it takes a lot of effort. It's also like a mystery. It's like a whodunit, as opposed to being a whodunit. We all know who done it. We done it, right? It's like, what done it? Which trauma was the one that's possibly still impact on you? Which energy technique is the one that's going to release you from a particular aspect? Which symptom is telling you what? Which symptom is telling you what? It's like trying to decipher a language that very few people in the world actually speak. And that's why it's complex. It's not necessarily difficult. It's complicated only because you have all the answers within you. And like an archaeologist and a criminologist and a forensic pathologist and any ologist that you can think of, you have to be prepared to go in. You have to be prepared to get your hands dirty. And you have to be prepared that there are some parts of it that are going to be ugly. And most of all, it is not going to be comfortable. It is not going to be comfortable, because part of the reason why we are stuck where we're stuck, and part of the reason why we have our signs and symptoms, is in an attempt to get us the fuck out of our comfort zones. So it most definitely is not going to be comfortable. Now, as I say this, I'm like, oh my God, I'm trying to sell these people on, hey, I can be your coach that can help you heal what you need to heal. And after this, you're all going to be going, oh, we all might as well just go and jump off a bridge. No, it's not necessary. It's not necessary for anyone to go and jump off a bridge, because there are people who've gone before you. There are hundreds of people that have gone before me, much smarter than me, that have actually worked some of this shit out, right? I've spent 30 years trying to work out which way works best for me and works best for my clients. And so you can leverage the time and the effort and the energy and the brain power that those that have come before you have spent. You can access that much quicker. So you don't have to go through 30 years of investigation. You can actually access that in a much shorter period of time. So all is not lost. I think what I'm trying to impart is there is no quick fix. And that it's about time that we woke up to the fact that even if we're not buying into the sort of allopathic quick fix, we're not buying into, you've got chronic joint pain, so just take an anti-inflammatory for the rest of your life because it'll manage your pain and you'll still be able to have a full life. That's really putting a bandaid on it. And I'm not knocking allopathic medicine. But what's happened is those of us who are like, we're like, oh, we're going to do it the holistic way. We've fallen into the trap of the sort of new age spirituality bullshit, which is essentially, just believe it and feel it and raise your vibration so that you can be a match to it, and then the universe will grant it to you. That is a form of bypassing, and it's bullshit, because if it worked, we would all be healed. And the fact is, we're not. And the reason why we're not is because it doesn't work. So it's time for us to get real. So we have to uncover, essentially, I think the way to do it is approaching ourselves with kindness and curiosity and a spirit of investigation. Dr. John DeMartini says that the quality of your life is determined by the quality of the questions you ask. If you don't ask any questions, my friends, you're never going to get any answers. Or if you keep on asking the same questions, you're just going to keep on getting the same answers, and you're going to stay stuck where you are. So you can't get away from yourself. You are the most vulnerable person in your life. You are also the only one that can truly do the archaeological digging to uncover where it is that there's the resistance that's keeping you stuck. And this is what I mean by it's an inside job. Now, again, you might go, oh God, I'm not going to do this because it's too hard. Here's the thing, guys. Being sick is also hard. Being in pain is hard. Not being able to do what you would love is hard. Being trapped in your current reality, being stuck in a relationship that doesn't serve you, being stuck in a relationship with money that doesn't serve you, being stuck in a career that doesn't serve you, being stuck in a body that doesn't allow you to experience the exuberance and the joy and the pleasure and the pain of being fully alive is painful. It's hard to do that. So either way, what I'm trying to tell you is you can get to choose which form of hard. You can either have proactive hard that is going to create vibrant health for you, or you can have reactive hard, which is just going to create more shit for you. You cannot get away from difficult. We cannot get away from discomfort. We cannot get away from pain. So how do we use discomfort and difficulty and pain as stepping stones to help us to create lives of inspiration and fulfillment? So I've got a few ideas, right? So let's just talk about why do we get sick in the first place? Well, I believe that your body and your being is a self-healing mechanism, that we are always tending to vibrant, perfect health. However, our lifestyle, basically, so if vibrant health is moving this way in a continuum, here comes your lifestyle, okay? So now your lifestyle is not just what you eat and what you drink and how much you move and how much you sleep. It's what you think. It's what your coping mechanisms are to deal with your trauma, with your early childhood trauma. It's, do you even know what that is? It's how fully can you feel your feelings? How honestly are you able to express yourself? How much can you connect to your limitless spirit and live in alignment with that spirit rather than being trapped in the fear and safety game that your ego wants you to play? That's your lifestyle. So your lifestyle butts up against, here's your being heading to wellness, always heading to wellness, and here comes your lifestyle going, and where the two of them meet, that's where it's at that interface where they start rubbing each other up the wrong way that we start developing signs and symptoms. And so your signs and symptoms are feedback. Your signs and symptoms are the language. Your signs and symptoms are the language that your body and your being is speaking to try and get your attention. Now, what signs and symptoms am I talking about? Well, this can be anything from joint pain to PMS, to depression, to insomnia, to hot flushes, to chronic tonsillitis, to recurrent infections, to autoimmune disease, to cancer. Those are just labels. Those are labels. And the signs and symptoms associated with those labels, they are the language. So when your lifestyle meets up against what your limitless spirit is longing to express, when your ego that's trying to keep you safe and trying to keep you in your comfort zone and trying to convince you that your view of the world, your view of yourself, of others and the world is correct and is the only view, and that's the safe view, and because that's the safe view, we have to stick to it. So that's why we stick to jobs that we hate, because our mind says to us, you know what, jobs are scarce, they're difficult to come by, I have to make money. Now that might all be true, but it doesn't mean you have to be in a job that you hate. Or when you're stuck in a relationship that doesn't serve you and your mind says, yes, but you know, you're not financially independent enough to leave and you have no support system and actually you have no choice and you have to stay. Well, you know, that might be true. If you leave, you may have no money, but you still have a choice that you can leave. Now, it's easy for me to say, if you leave, you have no money, because, well, I'm not in that situation, all right? So it's about recognizing these situations and trying not to have a judgment about them, trying not to make a story about them. And so if you're living according to the dictates of your ego, which developed in the first 3 years of your life, you have no ego when you're born. By the time you're 3, you have an ego. You have to have an ego, because when you're born, you have no idea how to navigate your way through the world. By the time you're 3, you have a picture of reality. You have a picture of how you are, how others are, and how the world is. And that picture allows you to navigate your way through the world. You have to have that. You have to have those limiting beliefs that are formed. You have to have those coping strategies because they keep you alive when you're tiny. When you're a grown-up and you have signs and symptoms, you have a choice. Then you don't have to have that any longer. You can choose. You don't have to wait until you've got signs and symptoms. Those are sometimes just the sort of the spark that fires you into going to investigate this, because humans we don't change until we get flippin' uncomfortable. Okay, so by the time we're really uncomfortable, that's when we're starting to look for some answers. So when you are living according to the dictates of that picture that you formed in the first 3 years, based purely on your perception, not corroborated in any kind of fact, essentially you made it up. So you make up how the world works, you make up what you believe about the world, and then you continue to live that way. But your limitless spirit, that part of you that's eternal and all-wise, it is longing to express itself in the world. You have come down to this world with choices that your soul is longing to express, things that your soul would love to create. One of the premises of the creative orientation is that everyone has a heart. And that doesn't just mean that everyone has a heart and we have feelings. It means everyone has deep desires in their heart. And those are soul desires that are longing to be manifest in this world. And when we don't live in alignment with those, when we live in alignment with that limited picture of our ego, well, then there's a disconnect and there's friction between, it's like a head and a heart thing. Your head says, don't be foolish. This is how it is and this is how it always will be. And your heart says, but I'm longing for that. I'm longing for so much more. And as a consequence of that, it sets up tension within you. And that internal stress, I just want to tell you, is probably 1,000 times more intense and or corrosive than your external stress. So we're always worried about what's happening outside. We're always worried about the external stresses. But what about the internal stresses? What about that stress of that coping strategy that's taught you that you need to always be good, that you need to always be kind, and that saying no to people is not being good or kind, which means you don't have a choice. You can't say no. So you say yes to everything, except you end up burning yourself out. You end up becoming resentful, and then you end up feeling guilty, because if you were really a good person, you wouldn't actually feel so bad about this. You wouldn't be so resentful about this. And so we have that inner stress happening constantly. And that, my friends, is what corrodes and erodes our physical well-being, our physical, mental, and emotional well-being. So when you can connect to that vibrant health that your spirit or soul is longing to express, then you can create it. But there are a few problems, all right? The first problem is that your ego, as I said, is always trying to keep you safe, and it's going to give you every single rational reason why living according to the dictates of your spirit is a terrible idea and how badly it's all going to end. And I just want to tell you, even when you do learn to live in alignment with your spirit and you do learn to trust your intuition, your ego is going to be relentless. In fact, it gets louder. It doesn't get softer. And this is why you want to start smartening up to, my God, it's just my ego. Not judging it, not hating it. It's a part of you. It's a part of you that wants acceptance and love. It's a part of you that you are not going to change, but you can integrate and you can accept and you can be kind to. And I can go, hey, okay, that's just my ego trying to keep me safe. But you know what? I'm going to choose to do this because this is what I would love to create. Okay. So your ego urges you to avoid discomfort and play it safe, even if playing it safe is causing you a huge amount of pain. So if you have got physical pain, but playing it safe means not going to dig around in your psyche because you know that you had a really painful childhood and you don't want to go back there, then your ego is going to say, don't go back there. Oh, that's not you. That's not worth it. Just go and see the rheumatologist. And if that doesn't work, go and see the immunologist. And if that doesn't work, go and see the next ologist and the next ologist and the next ologist. And somewhere, someone will have that magic bullet for you. It's not going to happen, my friends. So your ego is trying to keep you safe, right? So what is your spirit trying to do? Your spirit is trying to get you to transform. But transformation happens in discomfort. Transformation means you go against what is comfortable for you and you move into the unknown. And that's where things start getting very, very tricky, because your ego tries to convince you that staying where it's safe, even if what is safe is painful. So it's the devil, you know. Better the devil you know than the devil you don't know. Because when you step outside of your safety paradigm, even if your safety paradigm means you're staying in a relationship that doesn't serve you and you're being emotionally or physically abused, any relationship, right? It can be with your job, with your colleagues, with your family. It doesn't matter. The fact is, it's better that you know this. At least you're not alone. At least you've got this. If you walk out of this, what if you have no one? Like, what if everyone rejects you? And your ego is constantly saying that if you don't play it safe, you will be rejected, you will end up alone, and ultimately you will die. Honestly, I think that that is fundamentally what's lying at the base of every single limiting belief that each one of us has. So your ego is trying to convince you to avoid discomfort. So discomfort, right? So why can't we tolerate it? Well, because we're addicted to pleasure and we're repulsed by pain. However, how well has it worked for you trying to get away from pain? So let's use your physical body as an example. So let's say you have migraines, and every time you have migraines, you take a migraine kit, and eventually it takes the pain away, but it doesn't stop the frequency of the migraines. And then maybe a migraine kit doesn't work for you when you have a really bad migraine. You need a pethidine injection, and a pethidine injection certainly helps you float above the pain, and it helps you to recover from the migraine, but it doesn't stop you from getting the migraines. So now I'm not suggesting you should tough out a migraine. God, I hate headaches, okay? I mean, headaches are the worst thing ever. I'm not suggesting you need to tough it out. But once you've taken the pethidine and you've recovered from the migraine, maybe you want to ask yourself, what the hell was that all about? Like, what was that migraine trying to tell me? What is the language of the migraine? Now, I'll tell you this for free, that headaches are a conflict. They're usually a head-heart conflict, because this particular energy center governs your head and your thinking. This energy center governs your heart and your feeling. And this energy center governs your will. So when your head is saying you have to do this, because your head is your ego, you must do this to stay safe, and your heart saying, oh, but I long to be doing that. Your will saying, which way are we going? Because very often we go, today I'm going with the heart. Tomorrow I'm going with the head. And it's like the will's going, am I going with the head? Are we going with the heart? Are we going with the head? Are we going with the heart? Are we going with the head? Are we going with the heart? And eventually your will gets depleted. And very often headaches, chronic headaches and or migraines are just that, because you're so exhausted that all you can do is go to bed and sleep. You have to sleep it off. That's how most people get over headaches and or migraines. They have to take something or not, but they have to sleep it off. So complete rest, complete shutdown, complete involution. All right, so that we can actually just reset our energy from that head and heart conflict until it starts up again. And then off we go until the next time we have the major headache or we have the major migraine, right? So we are repulsed by pain, and we are addicted to pleasure, and we're addicted to the quick fix. This is why we don't want to sit in the discomfort, right? We also don't want to be honest, because so a lot of people say to me, I don't know what I'd love. And then when they find what they love, they're actually almost unhappy, because they're like, but I don't know how to get that. And when I say, well, you know what, the how is not our problem. The how is not our job. Our job is to take action in alignment with what we'd love and allow that to unfold. Follow the breadcrumb trails, like following a GPS, turn left at the stop street. Well, if I'm in an area that I've never been at, I don't even know what it looks like left of the stop street, but I'm going to trust that when I get to the stop street, the GPS says turn left. So I'm going to turn left. Then I'll know what it looks like. And then it's going to say in 200 meters, turn right. Now, I don't know where that's going. I don't know what street that is. I've often thought about that when I'm driving in a car with a GPS in a place I don't know at all. I'm like, fuck it. What if this GPS is just like taking the piss with me? What if this GPS is taking the piss and I'm definitely not going to go? I'm like in the completely wrong place. I wouldn't even know, because I have no experience of this place. Now, that's the same thing with creation. What if my next step doesn't get me my desired result? Well, what if it does? What if it does? Well, that would be great. Okay, well, you won't know until you take the next step. So let's just take the next step. And then we take the next step. And then we take the next step. Problem is, we want it all immediately. Me too. Guys, I just want $1 million to weigh 10 kilograms less and to be like vibrantly healthy with no effort. That's what I want. I mean, it's not too much to ask, is it? But the fact of the matter is, that's not how life works. We know that. So why do we buy into that delusion? Okay. So one of the reasons why we don't want to do discomfort is discomfort requires honesty, and honesty requires vulnerability, and vulnerability means that there's a chance we're going to be rejected. And you know what? Most of us would rather die than be rejected. And so as a consequence of that, we would rather avoid the discomfort completely. All right. We're also addicted to feeling good, and we're repulsed to feeling bad. And one of the reasons why that is the case is because we've never been taught to honor feeling bad. We've always been taught that when you feel bad, you got to fix it. You got to soothe it. You've got to change it. Feeling bad doesn't serve you. And quite frankly, New Age spirituality has really climbed on that wagon, because you've just got to reach for the next better feeling thought, and you've got to reach for the next positive emotion. And what's happened is we've created this whole culture of personal development junkies who feel guilty when we have a negative thought, and who feel bad when we have a negative emotion. God forbid that we should have a negative emotion. But you know what? If you feel shit, and you recognize that the reason why that you're feeling shit, and that means that you're focusing on a fear, and your fears are overriding you, and your emotions are really running you, but you choose not to soothe that, and you allow that to be, and as much as you can, as much as this is tolerable for you, then the longer you can sit with it, the more likely it is that something's going to happen that's going to be that next GPS prompt that's going to help you to take the next aligned action. And this is the beauty of how creation really works. You don't have to be in a good mood, my friends. You don't have to be happy. You don't even have to be healthy. You do not have to be positive. You have to just stop doing what you've always done, which has gotten you where you are, and choose to do something different. And that something different is almost always uncomfortable. So discomfort is the gateway to our liberation. It really is. So when we start becoming more comfortable with being uncomfortable, that's when we start stepping into being able to create magnificent things. Not in the world, just for ourselves, within ourselves. That's when we start really rising into our power. So when we keep on doing the same things, we keep on soothing ourselves, and we keep on avoiding the discomfort, then we keep on repeating the same patterns in our lives, and we keep on getting stuck where we're stuck. And then what we do is we whinge and we bitch and we moan, and we get a few people that agree with us about how awful it is, and who feel really sorry for us, which then reinforces it, and then off we go. We just keep on perpetuating that same old cycle over and over and over. So one of the problems is that our focus creates it's not a problem, a reality. Focus creates your reality, not your attitude. And if your focus is on staying safe, it means that your goal is being driven by fear. It's the fear that's driving you to the safety, the fear of stepping outside of the cage that you're comfortable with, this cage that you've built for yourself. It's the fear of stepping out that is actually keeping you trapped. So when shit happens, we focus on fixing because we want it to go away. So when people are sick, I had a whole career on people that are sick and want it to go away. Still, I have a coaching career based on people who are uncomfortable and want things to change, right? And that's fine. But once you realize that when you're focusing on fixing, what you're actually focusing on is the thing that needs fixing, which is the problem, which is what you keep on recreating. You just create more and more and more of it. What you want to be doing is, instead of focusing on the fixing, you want to connect to what is it that I would love instead. Because when you can connect to what you would love instead, and you start taking action in the direction of what you love, it might even be the same action. But where your focus is going to determine the results you get from that action. So when you focused on your egoic goals that are going to keep you safe, you are ultimately going to perpetuate the inherent fear of not being safe. And the reason why you think you're not safe in the first place. So, I'm not good enough. I have to make sure that I show up a lot of riches in the world because no one's going to look after me when I'm older, because ultimately I'm probably going to be rejected. Well, actually, what's going to end up happening is the money's going to end up slipping through your fingers. Or you might make the money and still feel old and lonely and rejected. Or you might find that the money keeps on slipping through your fingers. You're like, oh my God, why is this not working? Because you're focusing on the problem. You're not on this. Even when you think you're focusing on the solution, you're still focusing on the problem. You're focusing on the solution to what? To the problem. And so what are you ultimately focusing on? The problem. And so what are you creating more of? The problem. And when your focus is in alignment with your ego, it takes a lot of energy to actually keep that going. And ultimately your energy runs out, your willpower and your energy runs out. And so it's unsustainable. Whereas when you are aligned with your spirit and you take an action that you are doing voluntarily by choice, not compulsively from fear, when you're choosing to take an action so that you can create what you'd love, you are connecting to that part of you that's made in the image of God, that is linked to that eternal energy source. And so instead of it exhausting you, it inspires and energizes you. Now, that doesn't mean you don't get tired at the end of the day. Fuck me, I get tired at the end of the day. But there's a difference between the exhaustion of the hustle and the tired of, wow, today was a day. Today was a day. Fuck, I held the tension. I took the action. It was a day. And the difference is tomorrow when I wake up, I'm ready to do it again. When I'm working and operating from my ego, at some point, I actually am not ready to do it again anymore. Either I'm not ready to do it again from my mental and emotional aspect, or my body says, Loretta, you think you're doing it again. It's not happening, because now I've created signs and symptoms that are going to stop me from doing it. The third, well, one of the other things that's a problem here, the problem is problems with discomfort, right? So is that we don't trust our intuition, because your higher self, your limitless spirit, it communicates through your intuition. Your egoic mind communicates through your thoughts and your feelings. And most of us have no idea how to access our intuition, or we believe that it's only for like the chosen few that can access their intuition. My friends, we are all created equal in this aspect. We all have intuition. We all have a heart and we all have intuition, and we can learn how to access that. But here's the thing. This is what I've discovered. My intuition very often gives me an aligned choice, which is often a beautiful thing. I'm going to give you an example. It's like something that I'd like to do. But the discomfort is in having to go against what my mind is saying, why my mind is saying this is a shit idea. So let me give you an example. So 2 weeks ago, some of you know, I opened the Kula Natural Health Center in the Eastern Cape. It runs for 1 week a month. It runs in the first week of every month. And so for that week, I was at Kula, and I wasn't in this business, and I wasn't live, and I wasn't doing any online stuff, and I wasn't seeing any of my clients. And then the following week, I had to go to a Congress. This is last week. I had to go to Congress Thursday and Friday. So I only had Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday to work in my business, right? See my clients and do what needed to be done. And so my limiting belief is I'm not good enough, which means if I'm not doing everything 100% and like a lot of shit, then it's not going to work. And what's going to be reflected to me is that I'm not going to have any clients. People are not going to want to work with me. So I get to work on Monday. It was Magic Monday, actually. I had a massive meltdown on the weekend, because while I was at Kula, I was concerned that I was not working in this business. Anyway, so now I've got 3 days, right? I've got 3 days to do last week's 5 days work and this week's 5 days work. Now my ego programming is, Loretta, you cut the bullshit, you knuckle down, and you just work like fuck. That's what you do, okay? Because I can do that. I've done that. I'm comfortable doing that. I don't like it, but I can do it, right? But my intuition says to me, Loretta, it's unnecessary for you to do that. What I need you to do, so I connect to my intuition, what you need to do is you need to serve your clients with an open heart. You need to do this live on Tuesday, and there's a couple of admin things you need to do for Kula, and that's all. And then you can go to the Congress. Okay. All right. Now, taking my foot off the brake and not going balls to the wall, all right, and working 12 hours a day is not comfortable for me. So my intuition has given me a much easier list of things to do this last week. But not doing the balls to the wall catch up is really difficult for me. That's where the discomfort comes in. Yesterday, so this is another short week for me, because I'm going away tomorrow for 4 days. I can't wait. Yesterday I was like, oh, my to-do list is like as long as my arm. And one of my intuitive things to do was to rest. I'm like, what? Rest? I want to rest today. I have time to rest. Right? Another thing that happens to me is when I've got a lot of things to do is I cut the self-care. So it's easier just to have a piece of toast than it is to make a salad, right? So I don't eat as well as usual, and I cut it out on the exercise in the morning, because I think, you know what, that hour between the exercise and the showering and everything else, that hour I could actually get like 7 or 8 different things knocked off my to-do list. So my natural instinct, my ego, is to say, don't do the shit that's good for your health, because you can catch that shit up. Just work. And so I have consciously, yesterday and today, done the exercise. Now, as I decide, I'm not going to do the admin now, I'm going to do the exercise because that's what really serves me. My ego's going, are you fucking mad? You could do 10 things. You know, you say you've got a long to-do list, and you know that's just going to create more pressure for you, because if you don't get through that to-do list, okay. So that's what I mean by your intuition sometimes gives you the easy way. It gives you what you want. But in order to do that, you have to override what you're used to. And that's where the discomfort comes in. We are never taught to be okay with our discomfort. We are not taught to be okay with negative emotion. We are taught that negative emotion needs to be suppressed, numbed. So we've got to eat it away, work it away, shag it away, drink it away, exercise it away, whatever. Okay, we've got to just like soldier on, put on your big girl pants and soldier on. Or we've got to deny that we have it. Oh no, I'm fine. I'm perfectly okay. I never need any help. Or we have to distract ourselves from it. So hours scrolling mindlessly on our phones or watching series or whatever it is that we do, okay? Nothing against doing either of those. But if those are attempts to avoid your emotions, and those are attempts for you to avoid feeling bad, those suppressed emotions are going into your physiology. And they've got to come out somewhere. And they're ultimately going to come out as signs and symptoms. So I suppose my big takeaway here is that we can't avoid the discomfort. So I've got a few takeaways. Your mind lies, your body never does, right? If you're following your mind, you're following your ego. So your focus by default is on your ego, and you're going to keep on creating what you've always created. People are going to try and sell you bullshit, quick solutions that are going to seem really great in the short term, but are ultimately not going to work. And so you're going to feel like a failure. And your suppression of your emotions, your negative emotions, that is going to lead to signs and symptoms. And your addiction to comfort and your repulsion from discomfort is part of what's keeping you trapped. So resilience increases your capacity for discomfort. The more you are able to deal with the discomfort and just be okay and have the willpower to override what your ego is saying and actually carry out what your intuition is telling you, the more momentum you create in the direction of what you would love. And once your creation comes to fruition, nothing can take that away from you, my friends. And that's it's made me cry. I'm just thinking about Kula. And that's when you know that that is what living fully means. Living fully means embracing both sides. Living fully means creating what you'd love and putting up with the discomfort, dealing with the shit that goes with it, and ultimately feeling as if you're creating meaning in your life that inspires you to live a more expansive life, a more joyful life, a life that's filled with more freedom and more pleasure and more meaning. Not only freedom and pleasure and meaning, well, all freedom actually, but definitely more of those. And that is what I would love for you. So I don't have all the answers, but I do know I'm not selling love and light. I know that. I'm not selling love and light. I'm not selling a quick fix. What I am selling is a journey into yourself, a journey into getting deeply in touch with yourself. I can help you translate what your signs and symptoms are trying to tell you. And I can help you go on that inward journey so that you can step into the power of being your own healer. So if you are tired of fucking about, if you are tired of suppressing your symptoms, if you are tired of fighting yourself, if you are tired of that inner tension that you have and that head-heart conflict that you've constantly got going on, I would love to help you find your way. I'd love to go on that archaeological investigative expedition with you. So if you want to work with me, then send me a message, reach out to me directly. At the bottom or the top of this post, I'm going to put a link to my calendar. Book a call with me. It's free. There's no pressure. I don't know a hard sell, okay? I'm not interested in selling you. I'm interested in helping you. And in exchange for helping you, you're going to pay me because this is my business. So thank you to those of you who are on your live. Thank you to those of you who sat through 38 minutes of me waffling. I don't even know if this was cohesive, but it's important to me. It was important for me to share this with you today. So if you're ready to take that step into the most exciting journey of your life, which is the journey into you, that should be on everyone's bucket list, then I would love to be your guide. You can send me a direct message, as I said, or you can click on the link that I'm going to put with this post, and you can book a spot on my calendar, and let's have a chat and see where you are and where you want to go. Maybe I'm not the person for you, but I can possibly put you on to who might be the person for you. So thank you for being here live. If you have been watching live, please type live. I can't see who's on and who's not. I can just see that there are 8 people watching. If you are watching the replay, please type replay. I am going to upload this to YouTube, and I will put the link in the comments. So if you want to share this, please share this with your friends. I'll see you guys next week for more shit Loretta knows.